Okay, so that is a Ninja 250 rim. I was trying to adapt it on the front here. So I have a lot of the Ninja parts to use in this setup, but I just can't seem to make it work. I'll point out a couple of things I've got. We'll start with the brake here. If I put the brake caliper all the way in, it will bolt up. But the problem is these bolts go in the caliper. If you look at the, see there? They're hitting our bracket. So this, let's see, this bolt here is hitting this bracket on the inside because the bolts are at a further out diameter than on the stock rim. See, there's no bolts here. The bolts are clear on the inside diameter here. So on the Ninja rim, they're inside there and they are scraping. I thought about brushing this a couple millimeters off of each bolt and then I could pull a couple millimeters out of the inside of the bracket. But the reality is we'll always have an issue with this setup, because as that brake pad wears, it's going to have a tendency to wear that outside brake pad, and the wheel will walk slightly, or the caliper, or actually the wheel will hold steady if we space it properly. But the caliper will walk in and we'll lose the clearance that we create as the pad wears. Theoretically, yes, the pads should come together, but in reality, most of the time we see, because these are single or two piston calipers, those pistons will push in and we'll lose the clearance over time on these bolts. So I don't think there's really a good way to use this rotor and this wheel because of this. Really what we would need is a new caliper bracket created to replace this gray caliper bracket that would position the caliper a little further out. It could be done and a machining could be made, but that's not the only problem. Spacers would need to be created. And then also on the Ninja wheel, what I did is the typical Ninja wheel comes in with this. This is in the middle, in the center of the hub with a snap ring. I pulled the snap ring, pulled this out, and it fits in here. But I do not have the clearance. I have to stay this far off of this fork, but I do not have the clearance for the speedometer at all. I need that much room. The forks are just much closer, I think, on the KPX than they are on a Ninja. A Ninja would have a lot more space between the forks for this rim. What I was thinking I could do, if we were going to use this to get the speedometer to work, this is really a neat setup. So Lifan has used, this just sets inside the wheel. Here, let's look at the stock wheel. The stock wheel here, this just sits inside, this key's inside the stock wheel. See the spot here? Okay. This has two magnets in it, embedded inside here, one on the other side. Okay. And then this is just a pickup inside here. So what I was thinking is I could buy another one of these, go buy a bushing. So that bushing is actually acting as our spacer. And what I would have to do is I would actually have to 3D print one of these, press some magnets in, which wouldn't be that hard. I could put them in I could 3D print this thing out of PLA or PETG or some material that I think would hold up. And then I could press magnets from the inside out, glue, epoxy them in. And then I would need a new Speedo because I wouldn't want to ruin this one. Well, you could, but I want to make something I could go back to. Cut out the sensor, okay? Buy a brass bushing, cut it to the new width that I need inside here, and 3D print a housing to hold the sensor after I cut it off of this. And then I could epoxy the sensor to my new 3D printed housing and press a brass bushing in that could now match the spacing. Yes, it's a lot of work, but I do see a path to make this work. Alternatively, is you take this sensor, create a bracket that mounts to here, and then drill 2 spots for magnets here, just real light drillings, and you somehow mount the sensor to the OD, the outside diameter of the rim. So you could do that here, and then you wouldn't need this piece on the interior of the interior of the wheel. But I think I could get just enough space in there to fit that bracket. But that doesn't fix our brake problem. I think the brake problem is the problem. So yeah, you'd need a brass bushing. Those aren't hard. That looks like an oil light bushing that they're using there. You'd have to machine a new spacer for this side. That wouldn't be hard. See how sloppy that is? And again, this here floats, and then the caliper will float as well. But I have a problem. We can't fix that clearance on that bracket inside there. We could machine some. You might get away. I would maybe try that. You could machine this bracket 2 or 3 mil to clear these bolts. Maybe. There's just a lot here. There's just a lot here to try to make this rim work. I've already also what I've done with this is I've already cut this back. So I machined this back, this face probably about 5 mil back already. But there's a snap ring that goes inside here that held that other piece. I still have that, but I still have that lip inside this rim to put the snap ring back in, but I don't think I need the snap ring because the spacer here is going to butt up against the internal spacer, and then that should hold that bearing tight. I think. No, maybe you do need the bushing. If it's just a flat bushing like this, you would need the snap ring. But if you created a bushing that fit this gap with a lip on it, that it could pinch this, but then like machined a lip on the inside so that you had just a hair clearance so that you're not pushing against the bearing. You still need clearance because the wheel turns. Then you wouldn't need the snap ring. But I think you could still fit the snap ring in this and have enough room because you could actually keep machining this rim back if you needed to. But in reality, this rim is cut and this piece here fits inside there and will spin. That's why I was thinking just 3D print one of these, set inside there with magnets. But I would need a new pickup, speedometer pickup, and put in there to hold that. And yes, that would make the speedometer work, but it would be wildly inaccurate with the smaller rim anyway. You could say screw the whole thing and not do any speedometer, and we could maybe get it going with that. Interesting. Food for thought. Haven't even moved to the rear. I have a rim, axles, chain tightener. So what I believe the axles are actually the correct diameter, which is a good thing. The chain is also the correct size for a Ninja. So that means if we could get the rear Ninja wheel to fit, we now have Ninja sprockets we can buy for the rear. So that would help us. And then, of course, we'd have to shorten the swing arm. All right, food for thought. Let me know what you think. If anybody else out there has tried this. The other thing that I keep thinking about is there's other rims to use. Another good choice of a rim, I want to get away from a spoked rim, okay? Because I want a tubeless, easy, simple tubeless. I'm looking for reliability. Is a CBR 250R or a CBR 300. I don't know. I need to get my hands on one because we don't know any of the dimensions. It needs to be narrower. I guess one thing we could do is stop out and measure the width of the forks on a CBR, but again, that may not tell us the whole story. We just need more room in here. I would need the CBR rim. I should just bite the bullet and buy a CBR rim with a rotor on it. That's 75 $75 from eBay. Maybe I'll keep my eye out. Okay, anyway, let me know what you guys think.